as President Trump officially ended all talks of a tax hike on the wealthy. Newt Gingrich posted a note on X from the White House, reading in part, "Well, I love the idea of a small tax increase. The Democrats would probably use it against us, and we would be, like Bush, helpless to do anything about it. So if you can do without it, you're probably better off trying to do so." Newt Gingrich joins us now to talk about it, former Speaker of the House and Fox News contributor. Sir, thanks for being with us. This is a very interesting note to solicit and get and share. It's very meaningful when it comes to tax policy, but talk about how that whole thing came about.
Well, I think that a lot of people have been talking with the president. Look, he's one of the most remarkable people about listening to everybody, considering everything. And I guess because of my background, where I had led the fight against the Bush tax increase in 1989 or 1990, and we ended up with the House Republicans voting 166 to 10 against the tax increase. I think that probably gave me a different position to talk about it from a background of what's practical. We're only going to pass reconciliation with Republican votes in the House. We're not going to get Democrats. Bush passed his bill overwhelmingly with Democrats, with no Republicans. And I think President Trump is very, very good at looking at reality. And so, while it's an interesting idea, and I'm sure there's some people who said, oh, gee, we ought to look at this, I think in the end, he simply concluded that as a practical matter, we need to get to a successful, big, beautiful bill that launches the economy and continues the tax cuts, passes a number of reforms. And to do that, we've got to unify Republicans, not divide them. And I think that's that's really the thinking behind that.
Well, you talk about practicality. Let's talk a little bit about dates for a second, because we're hearing Speaker Mike Johnson say maybe by May 19th, he's hoping to bring this thing to a vote. But you hit the contours of where the disagreements are. You've got the SALT guys over here, and you've got, the different tax cuts that President Trump promised on the campaign trail over here. You got to cobble that all together with the guys who don't want to see any more deficits. Mr. Speaker, how do you pull that together by mid-end of May?
Henry Kissinger told me one time that every major decision that he was involved in took 48 hours. That you weren't quite sure when the 48 hours was going to occur, but when it came down to the crunch, it took 48 hours. Sooner or later, the problems aren't going to go away. We know what they are, and I must say, I think that the Chairman Guthrie, for example, Chairman Smith in the House have really done a great job of bringing their teams together. I think you're going to see an awful lot of conversations, and eventually, over the next couple of weeks, they'll grind their way to a solution. But look, this is life and death for the House Republican Party, because they have to have a strong economy in 2026 if they're going to have a chance to keep their majority. If we have a bad economy next year, Republicans will not keep the House. So the Senate doesn't feel the same pressure, which is unfortunate. But I think from the standpoint of President Trump, it's very clear that he has to have a Republican House and Senate if he's going to make the last 2 years of his term successful. He doesn't want to get back to a Nancy Pelosi environment where the Democrats in the House try to screw everything up. So I think that what Speaker Johnson's trying to do is get done as early as possible in the House to put maximum pressure on the Senate, get it to conference. And in my judgment, always, I've thought the real date was July 4th to have a signing ceremony. And I think that they can probably do that.
What do you want to see from the president over the coming weeks to help kind of, clear the space for Congress to get this done? Do you want more of what he's done? Do you want something different?
Well, look, I think there'll come a point once they clearly understand what's going to be in the bill, and once they've solved the Medicaid problem. And frankly, I've looked at Medicaid for many, many years. And at America's New Majority Project, we've done a ton of polling on Medicaid. People will accept, for example, having a work requirement. People will accept getting rid of the crooks. People will accept not having illegal immigrants getting paid. There are a number of things you can do that are legitimate, that not only don't hurt people on Medicaid. But if you do it right, you can actually probably improve for doctors by getting rid of the 2% annual cut. You can probably help specific groups that really need help a lot. And so I think if you work at it right, you can produce a Medicaid program. Remember, in the Republican budget, Medicaid goes up every single year.
Right. Does
not go down. Only in Washington would you say that an increase is a cut. And that's part of why the country's in so much trouble. That's the biggest issue. I hope the president will barnstorm the country, particularly go into weak Democratic districts, have 50,000 people show up, tell the story, and in about a 3 or 4 week period, build such popular support that the bill goes through the House and the Senate.
Good barnstorm is always appropriate at times like these. Really quickly, while I have you, you have such an interesting vantage point from which to look at what's going on with the Vatican right now, especially with your wife as an ambassador to the Holy See. What are you watching when it comes to what's going to transpire in the weeks ahead with the cardinals voting on a new pope?
Well, look, I think Callista felt very close to Pope Francis, and I think that it has been very personal for her. She'll be there for the funeral, and she sees it as a personal friend more than just as the head of the Catholic Church. My guess is, and I don't know anything any more than anyone else, my guess is the Church is going to want stability. They've had a very dynamic, very aggressive Pope who has, in many ways, brought the Church into a different space. He's been very successful in South Asia and in Africa, for example, in a huge increase in the number of Catholic believers. So in many ways, he's been very effective. But at the same time, I think he's been so dynamic that there's probably a little bit of a sense of getting somebody who can bring stability and get the Church solving some of its internal problems in the Vatican and focusing more on stabilizing the system. I think that that's my guess. But look, the conclave ultimately really does listen to God, and they really do try to find who should be vicar of Christ on earth. And it's always a slightly mysterious process.
Sir, an excellent perspective on church and state. Newt Gingrich, thanks for being with us. Good to see you.